chairperson of today's session, respected Dr. Padam Singh sir. Again, welcome all of here. Today we are having our lecture by Dr. Manushi Srivastava ma'am. Ma'am is currently designated as Professor of Medical Sociology in the Department of Community Medicine, Institute of Medical Science, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, UP. Ma'am is a medical sociologist and has done her PhD from the renowned Banaras Hindu University. She is an active academician with about 4 dozen national and international papers to her credit. Ma'am has been invited as a guest speaker to Smith College, USA, to deliver a talk about the public health challenges in India. She is also an invited faculty in Management Institute. Ma'am has successfully completed one major ICMR funded project as principal investigator and participated as co-investigator in various research projects. Ma'am is also Nodal Officer of Swachh Bharat Summer Intensive Program, coordinator of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, etc. Now, without taking too much time, I would like to invite ma'am to lead today's session. Please, ma'am. Ma'am, please unmute first.
Am I audible now, Amit? Am I audible, Amit?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Please,
okay.
please.
I just want to communicate to all the participants that in this 3 month of course, I have
Hmm.
3 lectures that I have to deliver.
Hmm.
The lectures are well in sequence, and all the lectures are about related to methodology. And the first lecture that I have to deliver is on the selection of research problem and formulation of hypothesis. The second is how to set up aims, objectives, and title of the study. And the third that I have to deliver is all about methodology, the basic concepts. So, as I personally feel, and as I have adjusted all my slides, I personally feel that it's important to understand some of the introductory issues and then aims objectives first. And in continuation, I will discuss how to set up the how to identify the title and how to frame the or formulate the hypothesis also. So, if you people allow, and if we want to maximize or optimize the understanding of these 3 lectures, today I'm going to start my session with aims, objectives, and basic methodology section. So, sir, kindly allow me
Yeah,
to
yeah, please
start.
go ahead
Thank you, sir.
as you
Thank you, sir.
have planned, okay?
Thank you, sir.
We
Thank you,
have
sir.
no issue. You are the best person to decide.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So, the how to set up aims, objectives, and methodology section in thesis specifically. So, what is exactly aims? What is the difference between aims and objectives and basic methodology section? So, let me start with the concept of aims. Basically, we used to say that in thesis or in research, when we talk about aims, aims are what we hope to achieve by the end of the thesis or our project plan. So, whatever we feel that we have to achieve at the end of the defined time period, for example, for thesis, you have the period of 3 years. So, at the end of 3 year, what you have to finally achieve is the aim. Fine. But aim is basically the main goal or overarching purpose of the thesis. So, when we talk about aim in context of thesis, is a individualistic concept, and when we talk about goal, it is more institutional in terms, but the meaning of both aim and goal is almost same for a researcher when we are talking about the thesis. So I have put a equal mark sign between aims and goals. So, what is exactly aim, or what is the features of a aim? What should be the, when we discuss about aim, aim is a broad statement which paints a picture, which shows a general intention of the research. So aim are broad statements of desired outcome at the end of the stipulated time period, or the general intention of the research, which paint a picture of your research project. Whatever research project you have identified, you have fixed for you, that that intention should be clear with the aim statement. Aim should be a very general statement, and it provide a sense of direction, in which direction you want to work. For example, if you want to work with children, and if you are interested to work regarding the child health or child education or child physical fitness, this direction should be very clear while discussing regarding the aim statement. Aim also emphasize what is to be accomplished. How it is to be accomplished is not the purpose of the aim statement. What is to be accomplished? Matlab, what we have to achieve at the end of the stipulated time period. How we will achieve, that is not the aim statement. Similarly, when we generally talk about thesis, it should not more than one or two aim statement. In any thesis, one or two aim statement is more than enough to do justice with it. So we always used to say that aim should be one or maximum two when we talk about the thesis or research project. So these are some of the common features of aims, right? How to write aim? How to start a aim statement? So aim is usually written using a infinitive verb, that is to plus action. To build, to theorize, to generate, because we have already discussed that aim is a general statement showing the intention, showing the direction. So, to track, to design, to develop, to map, these are some of the infinitive verb by which we can add to plus action. So, to build a track, to identify the immunization gap, to theorize, to generate secondary line of treatment, to track the immunization gap, or to track the uh, vaccine hesitant cases of such specific area. These are some of the statements that can frame the aim statement. Now moving to what should be exactly about aim. So aim should be, statement should be general, but it should be concise and brief also. It should be interrelated. The aim is what you want to achieve. So if there are two aims you have fixed for yourself for that specific stipulated time period, those aims should be interrelated to each other. If you have fixed two aims and both the aims are sounding very differently, then in the research period you won't be able to do justice with two aims. So if there are more than one aim, they should be interrelated to each other. Be realistic about what you can accomplish in the duration of the project. If you have fixed the duration of the project or thesis, then it should be very realistic that whether you will be able to achieve that specific aim that you have fixed for your research project period or for your thesis duration, whether you will be able to achieve it or not. And aim should be ambitious but not beyond possibility. So this is the meaning of realistic, that you should be ambitious, you should try to find out some of the new ideas or concepts. It should be innovative, it should not be simply repetition or copy, or just doing the same thing again and again, but possibility you should check always. Fine. So I think it is clear up to this point. Participants, is it okay? Shall I move ahead? Am I audible? Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
please continue.
okay, fine. What should not be? We discussed that what should aim be. Now we are discussing what should not be. Aim should not be too vague, too ambitious, or too broad in scope that we won't be able to do justice. So, to it should be ambitious but not too ambitious. It should paint the picture or paint the direction, but it should not beyond the scope. It should not be just a simply list of things related to your research topic. aim should not contradict your methodology. If you have fixed some methodology and your aim is like contradicting your basic methodology, this is not the way to frame the aim statement. I will give example later on. Too many in numbers. If you will keep too many aim statement in one thesis, believe it that it will be very difficult at the end of your research project or at the end of your thesis that you will be able to achieve those aims that you have fixed. And if you are not able to achieve it, the purpose will not serve. Fine. Now, what is the fundamental difference between aims and objective? What you have to achieve is aim. How you have to achieve, what steps you have to take, how you will move to achieve that aim is basically objectives. So, this is the fundamental difference between aims and objectives. Sometimes we used to get confused between aims and objectives. We think sometimes that aims and objectives are almost same, but it is completely different with each other. Aim is completely different. Aim is just intention. Aim is what we want to achieve at the end, but how we have to achieve is basically objective. So objectives are the step to achieve what you set up to attain in your study. So objectives used to emphasize how aims are to be accomplished. So we used to frame primary objective, secondary objective, or simply objective in 2-3 steps, in which we used to come out with our action plan. For example, socio-demographic analysis, or portfolio analysis, or assessment of behavioral components related to vaccine hesitancy. What are the factors, what are the responsible factors for behind vaccine hesitancy, how we can overcome the problem of vaccine hesitancy, and at the last we can mention that we can frame a policy brief to overcome this problem. Fine. These are some of the steps by which we can achieve the target or the aim which we use to address. Fine. So the objective should be very specific. Aim should be a general statement, but objective should be a specific statement which include detail about what you're going to do. So this is the beauty of a objective, that it should be very precise. It should be very specific. Specific in the way that we can measure it. For example, if we are talking about the vaccine hesitancy, issue of vaccine hesitancy, how many status evaluation of vaccine hesitancy means, if we are doing a status evaluation or gap analysis regarding vaccine hesitancy, we can measure it at the end of that objective, that how many people are basically hesitant to take the vaccine and how many of them are willing to take vaccines and have taken the vaccines. So this is the nature of measurability. So if we are able to measure our objective after conducting it, this is the second feature of objective. The third is achievable, that is, be realistic in what you hope to cover. Don't attempt too much. Realistic, whether it is able to, for example, we mentioned that we will cover the status evaluation of northern zone of India. During that period of 3 years, it is really very unrealistic to do that, because you have limited time, limited resources, limited manpower, limited fund. So always be realistic and think that whether you will be able to achieve this or not. The second is realistic in terms of logistics. For example, if you are mentioning that you want to do hemoglobin analysis of 1000 pregnant ladies, it is not that much easy for a researcher, for a PhD scholar or for a MD scholar to conduct because you are not going to do it in a project mode. You are going to do it in your thesis. If you are going to do it in a thesis, then logistically there are some limitations. So that logistic limitations, that time limitation, that manpower limitation, you should always keep in your mind. So always try to frame a realistic objectives. And time constraint, I always used to say that always think while framing your objectives that with first, if there are four objectives in your research, always think that in one objective approximately how much time you will take to do second objective, how much time you will take to do justice with third objective, how much time you will take. So always keep in your mind that how the time frame exact, how much actual time you have in your hand, and how much time you are going to devote in each individual objectives. So aim is what you hope to achieve, and objective is the actual action that you are going to do when you are aiming the defined aim statement. Fine. So this is the fundamental difference between aims and objectives. Aims are a statement of intent. They are usually written in broad terms. They set up what you hope to achieve at the end of your thesis or project. However, objectives, on the other hand, should be specific statements that define measurable outcomes, that is, what steps will be taken to achieve the desired outcome. When writing your objective, try to use strong positive statements. What strong positive statements? Like this type of verb, when you will use, it will become a strong positive statements. There are some strong verbs, there are some weak verbs. Strong verbs mean, like, for example, collect basic information about socio-demographic and behavioral profile. It means it is very clear that you have to conduct a survey or questionnaire-based analysis, questionnaire-based survey, and collect information about socio-demographic and behavioral components. If you will mention appreciate the behavioral components of people living in the specific place, so appreciation is not clear. What you have to do in appreciation? Getting. So consider, inquire, learn, know, understand, to be aware of. These are some of the weak verbs. So always try to avoid using weak verbs while framing your objective statement, because your objective should be very clear in terms of action. What you want to do: collect, construct, classify, develop, devise, measure, produce. These are some of the strong verbs that you should use while framing your objective statement, because by using these specific verbs in your mind, it will be very clear that what exactly you have to do. Fine? Is it okay? Am I
Yes.
clear?
Yes, yes.
Fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your motivation, sir. So there are basically two types of objectives. Always keep in mind, this is not a compulsion for anybody to mention in your thesis or research that you have to keep both type of objectives: general objective or main objective, and specific objective. Sometimes students or people used to ask that, ma'am, is it necessary to keep both the objective? No, not at all. Not at all. If you have mentioned aim, you can directly write your objectives. If you have not mentioned exactly the aim, then you can split it in general objective or specific objective. Usually what happens, the aim is basically the general objective of your thesis or of your research, and specific objective is doable verbs. Fine. So there are two types of objectives: main or general objective and specific objective. Specific objectives are basically the detailed objectives or split of general objectives, one can say, that describe what will be researched during the study, whereas the general objectives is much broader statement about what the study aims to achieve overall. So general objective is more similar or closer to the concept of aim statement. So if you have mentioned the aim of your thesis, it will be okay if you will skip the bifurcation of objective in general or specific. Otherwise, what will happen? Your aim statement or your general objective, main objective, will almost be similar to each other. Right? So this is just an example of Framing Aims and Objective. The title of the study is A Descriptive Study of Anti-Arthritic Ayurvedic Products Available in Pune region. For example, this is the title, a descriptive study. Now, the aim is to find out whether P&P, patient and proprietary Ayurvedic medicines indicated in arthritis, are following the guidelines of Ayurvedic therapeutics. This is the aim. We want to come out with this answer. We want to uh, 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 we want to come out with this answer at the end of the thesis. Now we are splitting the objective. So once we have mentioned the aim, there is no need to split the objective in general statement, general objective or specific objective. So what are the three objectives? See, there are only three objectives. The first is to study the rationale behind the P&P Ayurvedic formulation indicated in arthritis, to study the regulatory status of PNP arthritic drugs, and to study the economic aspects of formulation indicated in arthritis. What is the pitfall in framing the objectives here? If I will evaluate it critically, I will say that we are framing all the objectives to study, to study, to study. So just to break this monotonous frame, we can change the verb also. But to study is again not that much strong verb. So always try to select a strong verb. Fine. So can you suggest me what strong verb can you put in these three objectives? What we have discussed earlier? Yeah, come on, participants. Can you replace to study, to study, to study with some more appropriate strong verbs that we have discussed in our previous slides? Yeah, to analyze. Very true. Good. Something else? To assess. To assess the regulatory status of. Agreed. Something else? To evaluate. Very good. To evaluate the economic aspects of formulation indicated in arthritis. Very good. Good suggestion. To establish. To collect is more better. To establish is, to collect is better. Getting? So like this, you will be able to understand that which one is better, because to collect is more clear. To evaluate is more clear. Getting? To assess is more clear. Fine. So thank you for being with me. Yeah, to classify accordingly. Thank you. So I'm moving ahead. This is second example. The title is Assessment of Delays Responsible for Maternal Deaths by Using 3 Delay Model in Rural Pune. What is exactly what? Let me explain the concept of philosophy of this title. This is a 3 delay model to evaluate maternal mortality. So, to conduct verbal autopsy or social autopsy, we used to take help of this 3 delay model. That this 3 delay model used to assess that at which level this specific delay occurs and that maternal death taken place. So this 3 delay model used to assess the delays at different level. Delay at home level to take decision whether we have to move to institute for delivery or not. The second delay to arrange money or to transportation or for other facilities. And the third delay at institutional level delay. Doctor is not attending or paramedics not attended. These are some of the three type of delays. Now final aim the aim is basically the intention of the study is the final intention of the study is to reduce maternal death in rural Pune. This is the intention. This is the direction in which we want to work. Now we are going to split the objectives to relate the maternal deaths with different levels of delay. First, relate. Relate means what to relate? Maternal death and the level of delay. Whether the level of delay at first level, due to which that maternal death occurs, whether the level of delay is on second level and the maternal death occurs, or the delay is at third level and maternal death occurs. So that's why, see, the verb is very clear: to relate the maternal death with the level of delay, first level, second level, third level. Now, to identify the social, behavioral and cultural factors responsible for delay at each level, can you suggest some other verb to start this statement? To identify. Can you suggest some other verbs? Come on. To evaluate. Something else? To assess. Very true. To assess, Dr. Bharti. Very true. To measure. Very true. Now, the third objective is to identify the facility gap in the best functioning facility, CHC, PHC of the selected blocks of Pune. So this is basically the third objective, to identify the facility gap. Can you suggest some other verb? To correlate, uh, to assess, something else, something better than this. We have to assess the facility gap. Facility gap. To identify, to evaluate will be the better. Not differentiate. To find out is okay. So to classify is not okay. To recognize is okay. And to identify is also a better option. To rule out is not okay. To analyze is okay. Thank you. Thanks for being with me. So these are some of the options that we can put with this sentence framing. So this is the split. So I want to explain 2-3 points. The first is, when we mention the title, the aim should be the intention or the direction, and the objective should be split over of the aim or the general objective. When we talk about the objectives, it should not be more than 2-3 objectives, because with each objective we have to keep in mind that how much time, how much resources, how much logistic arrangements we need, and how much expertise we need. So always keep in mind the time frame, the logistic arrangements, whether it is achievable or not, whether it is measurable or not, or your expertise in that field. Fine. Now, the methodology section. When we talk about methodology, there are a lot of things that we have to discuss. Fine. We think that methodology means where to conduct the study and on whom to conduct the study. Agreed. These are the two major points that we have to discuss while discussing the methodology. But there are a lot of things other than these 2 points that we have to discuss, we have to keep in the methodology section. So the methodology describes the broad philosophical underpinning to your chosen research methods, including whether you are qualitative or quantitative methods, using qualitative or quantitative methods, or a mixed method. So a key part of your dissertation or thesis is the methodology. Even in research projects, funding agency mainly ask about the concept note and methodology, how you are going to conduct it. Methodology provides the information on where and how the research was conducted for the thesis with sufficient detail so that another researcher would be able to repeat the study by following the same methodology or by changing some of the other aspects of methodology. Fine. So the methodology section of a research paper or of research project answers two main questions. How was the data collected or generated, and how was it when we collect it, and from where we have to collect. So the specific research tool or strategies that you utilize to study the underlying hypothesis and research question in the methodology section. The writing should be direct and precise and always written in past tense. These are some of the do's and don'ts that you have to keep in mind while writing your methodology section. Fine. See, this is 6 main issues that you should always keep. These 6 are the major sections that you have to keep while writing your methodology section. Area of the study, your study area, your universe. Type of the study, which type of study you are going to conduct. How can you suggest the name of some of the types of study? Do you know some of the study types, dear participants? Prospective, fine. Dr. Anuj, prospective, fine. Observational, very good. Interventional, very good. Clinical studies, good. Cross-sectional, good. Analytical, fine. Experimental, fine. Cross-sectional, qualitative, cohort, fundamental, a lot of suggestion. Thanks for being with me. So there are different types of studies. Different type of study have different nature and different way to conduct it. Tools of study, there are different tools of studies. Sampling technique, there is defined sampling techniques of the study. Sample size of the study, and inclusion and exclusion criteria of the study. So these are some of the defined section that we have to keep in mind while framing our methodology section. So what comes under this specific? So types of study, you all have already mentioned lot of study types. We can split study types in two major categories: observational study and experimental and interventional studies. In observational studies, we can split it again into descriptive studies and analytical studies. In my lecture, I'm not going to discuss each and every type of study, but I'm just showing a flow chart in which you can get the glimpse or idea about different types of studies and their names. In descriptive studies, it is basically split into surveys, case studies, and correlational studies. When we talk about analytical studies, it can be split over in four types, that is ecological or correlational studies, cross-sectional or prevalence studies, case control or case reference studies, and cohort studies. Now come on experimental or interventional studies. When we talk about interventional studies or experimental studies, randomized control trial or clinical trials, and field trials or interventional studies is the major common type of studies that we use to frame, and community trials too. Fine. So these are the three split over of experimental or interventional studies. Now moving on the next slide, how we used to decide that which type of studies design we have to take. Uh, Sometimes our students are very confused about the types of study design, that which type of studies in design we have to choose at in which situation. Basically, let me clarify this point, that the purpose of the study, the nature of the study actually decide the design of the study. For example, if we have to determine the frequency or problem of the burden of the disease, what type of study is more prevalent or appropriate? Cross-sectional study or cohort study, because we have to find out the burden of the disease or determine the frequency and burden of the disease. So prevalence and incidence studies, cross-sectional and cohort study, will be more suitable for that. If we want to find out or determine the risk factor, then cohort and case control study will more appropriate. In such situation, to find out the risk factor, cross-sectional study or blanket study or one-time study is not the appropriate option. If we want to determine the prognosis of the study, cohort study or the nature of study should always be cohort in nature. That will be the best suited study design when we want to find out or determine the prognosis of the study. If we want to find out or determine the efficacy or effectiveness of new treatment, then clinical trials or community intervention will be more suitable or more appropriate options. And if we want to evaluate community program, then only evaluation studies is the best option to evaluate community programs and to find out the gaps and to reframe it or re-complement it and re-implement it in the field or in the community. So study design is not as per our choice. If you want to go for cross-sectional study, irrespective of anything, we are mentioning in the title that we want to find out the risk factor of so and we are going for cross-sectional study. So your aim and your methodology is contradicting each other. To find out the risk factor, cross-sectional study should not be opted, because this is not the correct option. So the purpose of the study is the justification behind identifying the study design. Is it okay? Can I move ahead?
Yes,
Is it
please.
clear?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Very
Thank
good.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Making very simple.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I suggest, as I personally feel, that epidemiology by Leon Goddess is one of the best book written in very simple language, uh, in which I have gone through and I have read. I am suggesting you can have, there are very good books by different authors, different experts. It is up to you, that in which, with which book or which author you are comfortable. But I'm comfortable with Leon Goddess, and I feel that this is good book, and I can suggest you. So I have just suggested. It is up to you by which book you want to move. Tools of the study. There are different study tools: questionnaire, interview, schedule, scales. Though different tools, as per the need, as per the objective of the study, you opt different tools. But there are some fundamental difference between these three four types of tools that are mentioned here. So I just want to mention that questionnaire is specifically for literate groups, where you will post or you will give and ask them or request them to please fill it and give it back to us. So questionnaire is the tool which you use specifically to literate groups. Fine. Interview is basically when researcher or interviewer used to ask question and get the answers recorded. When we talk about schedule, we used to talk interview schedule. We used to interview and fill the schedule by ourselves, getting the responses. This type of study, in which we use the tool of interviewing or interview schedule, we can go with any type of group of subjects, literate or illiterate, geriatric population, children, because here interviewer have to ask and record the answers. Fine. And scales are basically to evaluate the qualitative nature of studies when we used to conduct in such type of cases, when we want to record the answer. For example, uh, if you want to get the answer which is more objective subjective in nature. For example, subjective, how much you like sweets. How much you like sweets. This can be on the scale form. For example, 5-point Likert scale, or on the 10-point scale. How much? Rate it from 0 to 10. Or 5-point scale. Rate it on the scale. Fine. Or there are different scales that you can use. So this is basically to convert the subjectivity of the answer in a measurable objectified form. Fine. So this is the different types of tools which we use commonly in our studies. Now, sampling techniques. When we talk about sampling techniques, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. This is the major categorization. When we talk about probability sampling, simple random sampling, stratified sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, and multi-stage sampling are some of the common names which we use most of the time in our studies. When we talk about non-probability sampling techniques, convenience sampling, purposive sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling, these are some of the commonly used techniques in terms of non-probability sampling. I'm not going to explain each and every technique because it will take a long
I have
time.
covered these, madam. I have covered
Thank
this
you, sir.
sampling.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So, sir is the best person to cover all these. And when sir will explain, you
No, I
will
have
feel.
already taken lecture on this.
Oh, sir, then sir has already covered, so no issue. It's like a book in itself. Sir is like a book in itself, textbook in itself, and sir has
Thank you.
explained, so
Thank
no
you.
issues.
Thank you,
It's all
Manasi.
covered.
Thank you.
Thank you. When we talk about sample size of the study, sometimes we keep in mind that sample size means only a number. I just want to say that sample size is not only a number. When we are talking about sample size, all these points should be in your mind while coming out with a final number. The universe, the purpose of the study, whether it is qualitative or quantitative in nature, accessibility of the elements, cost of obtaining each element, variability required, your confidence level, sampling error, and sampling distribution. I just want to, the purpose of showing this slide is to mention that this is the magnitude of work that you have to keep in mind while deciding the sample size. So I'm sure that sir will discuss about these issues of sample size also. So these are the main elements of sample size that you should always keep in your mind. Inclusion and exclusion criteria I would like to discuss.
Important.
What should come first? Or this is not a issue that what should come first while writing your research proposal. Inclusion or exclusion, what should come first? Do you think that this question is valid?
Very much.
Do you think, participants, that this question is valid?
Yeah, very right.
Inclusion
Yeah,
should
very
come
right.
first.
Very right.
Why not in exclusion? Why inclusion should come first? Why not exclusion? We have to exclude from included
Yes.
study subjects, or we have to include from excluded study subjects. Are you getting my point? Participants, are you getting my points? See, always keep in mind that we have to mention strictly inclusion criteria first.
First, yeah.
Always. It's not vice versa. It's not the issue that, yeah, of course, we have to exclude from included ones. First, we have to mention the inclusion criteria, that all women of reproductive age group will be included. Now, from all women of reproductive age group from 15 to 49, those will be excluded who get migrated, or who have chronic illness, or who are mentally challenged. So from the included group, we have to mention to whom we have to exclude. So always keep in mind that you have to mention the inclusion criteria first, and then you have to mention the exclusion criteria. First point that I want to mention or share with you all. The second point, sometimes we used to go through the research proposal or thesis. Students used to do a common mistake. All under 5 male child. Then what's the need of mentioning all under 5 female child? It's very obvious. It's obvious. Those who have given written consent. Once you have mentioned inclusion criteria, those who have given written consent, then you are mentioning a exclusion statement. Those who have not given exclusion written consent. This is obvious.
But this is, I have seen many proposals where they write.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm also facing this.
Yes, yes, I am
lot of
facing
times.
this.
So you just think, once you have mentioned here, all under 5 male child, it is very obvious that all under 5 female child get excluded. Fine. You have mentioned all women of reproductive age group 15 to 49. It means all women below 15 year and more than 49 year is excluded.
Yes.
Need not to mention it. Fine. So this is it clear? Is it clear? So while writing your inclusion and exclusion, sometimes inclusion and exclusion criteria we used to write in very hurry. We feel that this is not that much important. Why to give time? Why to invest time so much in writing inclusion and exclusion criteria? Sometimes I feel that inclusion and exclusion criteria is least bothered section of the thesis writing, and I personally feel that it is very important to mention it clearly. Right? So always do justice while writing inclusion and exclusion criteria. Think properly, have some time, have patience, write properly first inclusion criteria, then think that whosoever get included in your study as per your need, in from that section, who will be excluded, in what condition, in what circumstances you will include from all the included study group. Fine. Fine. Okay. Now I'm moving towards a brainstorming session. So we will conduct a brainstorming session regarding qualitative and quantitative variable. Sometimes what happens, let me I mean the third, qualitative and quantitative studies. Sometimes what used to students used to ask, ma'am, qualitative and quantitative is study, agreed. How to analyze depends on the nature of the variable that we have kept. The same variable, how we are presenting it, depends that whether it is qualitative in nature or quantitative in nature. Now let me explain you what is exactly qualitative and what is exactly quantitative. Can anybody of you want to explain what is qualitative variable and quantitative variable? It depends on the nature of the variable that how we are going to analyze it, no? So,
I think those who
now,
attended my lecture should answer this.
right. Qualitative, countable or measurable? Qualitative is countable or measurable? Quantitative is
Immeasurable.
measurable. And countable is? Qualitative is? Qualitative is countable facts is qualitative and measurable facts is quantitative. Fine. Now, a one variable, one entity can be represented in both way. Now you have to answer. This is a brainstorming session. So you all have to, I mean, careful while answering. Fine. And sir is there to make corrections. Cast, whether it is qualitative in nature or quantitative in nature. Think and then answer. Countable or measurable? Cast.
Yeah, yeah.
Quality.
Quality, yeah.
We can count it. We
Yeah.
can't measure. We can count it. Fine. Agreed. Agreed. Good. Well done. Fine. Family size. Think properly. Think. Have pause. Family size. How we are going to represent it. Family size. Small,
Very
big, very small. Or it can be both. Family size. It can be countable. Right. Both. It depends how we are going to represent it. Family size. Small, big. If we are mentioning like this, small, medium, big, then it is countable. If we mention it in numbers, then it will be measurable. So,
Generally, it is numbers.
yeah,
Generally, it is numbers.
numbers. 6, 2, 3, 5, fine.
Yeah,
2
yeah,
to 5, 5 to 7, more than 7.
yeah.
Fine. Is it okay? So it can be both. Now height, weight and answer. It can be both or it can be only measurable, it can be only countable. Depends on how we are getting both. Very good, excellent. Both. Small, medium, if we are mentioning like this, it can be countable. If we are measuring it, height, from this to this, then it will be quantitative in nature. So it depends on the variable presentation that whether it is qualitative or quantitative. Now, gender, qualitative or quantitative, measurable or countable, qualitative,
Okay,
because it
very
is
good.
countable. Fine. Weight, weight, both, both. Very good, very good. Color, color, because
Quality.
it is, because it is qualitative in nature, countable only. Fine. Taste, taste, qualitative. Fine. Countable. BP, think, wait and think. No hurry, no hurry. Both. It depends on how we are representing it.
Yeah.
IQ. IQ. Both. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Religion. Religion. Just wait and think. Qualitative. Countable. Agreed. Skin color. Good. Agreed. Skin color. Qualitative. Countable. Hemoglobin level. Wait. Think. Wait. Give a pause. Both. Depends on representation. Occupation. Occupation. Good. Qualitative. Countable. Education level. Wait. Education level. We can represent in both the ways. Education level. Counted years. Formal year of education. 10 years, 12 years, more than 15 years, less than 5 years. Or range. Up to high level. Both. Agreed. Income. Wait and think. Income. Both. Agreed. Age. Age. Both. Agreed. Blood sugar level. Both. Oh, perfect. So all my participants get perfect. So this is the answer of your question when you ask qualitative study. Should they have all the qualitative variable? No. It depends on the nature or representation of your variables. Quantitative study, all the variable will be quantitative nature? No. It depends on the variable, how you are going to represent it. Getting? So this is the answer. So methodology should not be problem blind. Unnecessary explanation of basic procedure should not be there. Irrelevant detail should not be there. Review literature should not be the part of methodology section. Please mind it. Review literature should not. Review literature, please don't use review literature like a wooden block to increase the width of the thesis or your research proposal. Review literature is review literature, which helps you in writing the discussion and for contextualization. So always use it with a good justification and reason. It's more than sources of information. Fine. So thank you very much. This is the complete and brief overview about the aims, objectives, and methodology section regarding thesis writing or research writing. And I think I tried my best in
Dr. Manushi, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
sir.
very, very, say, interactive
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
session.
sir.
We have made things so simple for the participants,
Thank you,
and
sir.
I could not find my talk to be that interactive, but
Thank you,
I
sir.
am
Thank
very
you,
much
sir.
impressed. I am very much impressed. Now
Thank
we
you,
can
sir.
have questions from the participants now.
Sure, sure, sure. I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Please be free. You can put in the chat box or you can raise your hand.
Thank you, ma'am, for a very informative session. I hope
Thank
that
you.
all participants enjoyed this session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. In front of our teacher or so senior person to deliver a lecture itself, it is a very challenging task, Padam Singh sir. But it's okay.
And you just revised the session of Dr. Padam Singh sir also.
Oh, it's
Revised the
great.
session of
I also covered these type of variables.
Oh, lot.
Yes.
That's great, sir.
Now
That's
I
great.
again
And sampling
request
part.
to
But
all
good that
participants.
they have remembered something and they are able to, respond.
There is a question, I think.
No, they are all thanking very much.
Oh, thank you
Yes.
very much. Oh, so I'm also very thankful to getting this opportunity to deliver. Sir, sometimes I feel that these online sessions are quite challenging for us also
Very,
because
very challenging. Technology prophecy, technical issues. I also,
yes, a lot of technical issues and faces are the real
otherwise
feedback for
also, eye
teachers.
contact. We don't have eye contact with the
Yes,
participants.
sir.
That is the problem.
Uh,
But I
Facial
think
expression are the
this
real
has
feedback
become,
for us, and that
yeah,
was
yeah.
missing. So sometimes I feel that I'm not getting the real feedback of my lecture, that people
Yes.
are getting it or not.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Dr. Deja, please ask your query. I sent you the
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
please.
Good evening, ma'am. It was
Good
really a
evening.
wonderful session. Ma'am, in the two there events regarding the questionnaires and scales. So sometimes in the questionnaire itself, some scales will be included, no, ma'am? Like, for example, in EQ, there is a short questionnaire. So that questionnaire itself is in the form of Likert scale.
Of course.
Yeah.
In questionnaire, we used to include to get some of the objectified answers of subjective nature of question. For example, in the questionnaire, there are few questions which are basically subjective in nature.
Yes.
To get the exact answer of those questions, we used to introduce scale in the questionnaire
Okay.
or in the schedule itself. But
Okay. Okay.
sometimes scales are independently we use.
But
Fine.
I
Okay.
think this is a very
Okay,
important
ma'am.
observation from the participant,
Yes, sir.
Manushi. I
Yes, sir.
think we have to
Yes,
agree.
sir. Agreed.
No, they have, that means they have understood everything. And which means,
Agreed.
yes, this scale can be a part of the questionnaire, yes?
Yes.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Dr. Rasna Bharadwaj, please
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Ratna. Yeah.
Ma'am, I want to ask, how can we design a methodology for reverse pharmacology? If we want
How
to,
you can design methodology designing depends on your aims and objectives, basically, and the purpose of the study. First, frame in your mind what is the final aim, split that aim in different objectives, and as per the purpose and objective nature of the objective, decide your methodology. But before doing all these, Dr. Ratna, it is very important to go for proper ROL, review of literature. When you will go for proper review of literature, your methodology will automatically get refined.
Yes.
Getting my point?
yes, ma'am.
So do rigorous ROL first. If you have some topic in your mind or some area of study in your mind in that specific direction, do good literature search first. That literature search will help you in refining your methodology
Yes,
or
yes,
in
yes, yes.
framing your methodology. Getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That will be very helpful.
Okay, ma'am.
Are you getting my point, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Because
I'm
it is
getting.
not easy to help you at this point of time with framing the methodology. But I can help you that how you can get help by doing a rigorous review of literature, by going through some of the same type or same nature of studies in which you are going to conduct your study, and by going through the methodology that they have mentioned, it will be easy for you to understand how you can frame or how you can avoid repetition also. Getting?
Okay, ma'am.
Repetition should not be there. It should
I think,
not be.
Manushi ji, you have very well explained in one slide that
Yes.
this is the objective, and for these objectives, these are the suggested study designs. I
Study
think
designs.
clues would be taken from there,
Yeah.
along
Purpose.
with the strong review of literature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Something
Dr.
else?
Dr. Smita Jain,
Yeah.
Good evening,
Good
ma'am. Good
evening.
evening,
Good
sir.
evening.
Ma'am, my query is that whether secondary objective is mandatory to mention in all the studies, and in secondary objective, whether we should convey about the expected secondary outcomes.
See, ma'am, not at all. Objective
Okay,
can be simply objective. There is no compulsion to split objective in primary and secondary. First,
okay, okay, ma'am.
okay. The second outcome, primary outcome or secondary outcome, basically, study outcome is basically or expected outcome. You should mention so that you can chase or keep track on your work. Fine.
Yes,
This is
yes,
the
ma'am.
sole purpose of mentioning the outcome.
Okay,
Fine. So that
yes,
you will not be detract while doing your study.
okay, ma'am.
This is the final purpose.
Okay,
That you have already mentioned in your aims and objectives that you have to achieve this.
yeah,
Getting?
yes,
Sir,
ma'am.
you
Yes,
want to add something?
no, ma'am. That is what outcomes, is it mandatory or not? I wanted
No,
to
not at all.
know, ma'am.
Not at all.
Yes, ma'am.
Not at
Yes,
all.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's not
Yes, ma'am.
mandatory.
Yes, ma'am.
It's
It's
not,
clear.
it will be helpful for you. If you will mention the outcome or expected outcome, yeah, study outcome, it will be helpful for you. It's not mandatory, but it will be helpful for you to keep track on your work. You will
Yes,
be
ma'am.
on track. Getting?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
That's
ma'am.
all. That's all.
Clear, ma'am.
That's
Thank
the
you.
only
Thank you.
purpose.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Dr. Sarai Avinash Kore, the last query from Dr. Sarai,
Yes.
please.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I have one study for which I have only 2 months in my hand,
Okay,
and
fine.
it has two phases, one pharmaceutical phase and one some pilot work.
Okay.
So can I, and already that protocol has been submitted. So it will it be mandatory for me to complete both the things within 2 months?
That
Uh,
for that
as
you
per
have
it
to
is
mention the time
actually.
frame first. You have to draft your time frame. Go for
Hmm,
pilot study. See, ma'am,
hmm,
what happened if your work is justified?
hmm,
Go for pilot study.
hmm,
Try to assess how much time you have taken in the pilot phase and come out with the results. If you
hmm,
feel that after conducting the pilot you get the vision and you can conduct the rest of your work in the remaining time, then okay.
hmm.
Or if you feel that no, it is not possible, then you can send further request for extension, I think.
Okay.
But as
Okay.
I personally feel, ma'am.
You
Hmm.
are right. You are right, Dr. Manasi. If you are doing only a cross-sectional observational study, that can only be done in 2 months' time. But if you are
That's
doing
it.
otherwise, I don't think anything can be done in 2 months. Only pilot
Very true.
could
No,
be
Very
done.
true.
the major part of the work is pharmaceutical. We are developing something new, and
Hmm.
then because we are developing
Okay,
something
okay.
new, we have to take some pilot study for that.
Hmm.
This is the purpose, like,
Ma'am,
ठीक
but
and
है.
but
it's a
the
7 day study only. The problem is also a very common problem. So we are likely to get a good number of person, but then we can have like 15 to 20 to 30 candidates. Is it enough for some pilot work? There is no definite number of patients for pilot work, but if I write clinical trial, then it is not possible in 1 month or 15 days period,
Yeah.
no. So the 15 or 20, 30 candidates will be okay for preliminary, because it's a undergraduate project sanctioned by Ayush,
hmm,
and the student is undergraduate student to whom I am giving guide, and
okay.
that has been already sanctioned now. And where we have written that we will be doing pharmaceutical phase and we will be doing some clinical work.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
So
Ma'am,
then they should consider, being a undergraduate student, they will not expect a great amount from her.
Ma'am, you are very rightly said that there is no fixed number for pilot study,
Right.
but uh, to uh, to to rely on something, to rely
Yeah.
on some screen data, there should
Yeah.
be a respectful number of
I
Yes.
think
Yes.
30.
We will
Manushi
try
ji,
to get
we
maximum
can
number.
recommend that they can do with minimum 30.
yeah,
Yeah.
at
Okay.
least that's what I was also coming
Yes.
on, that
Okay.
30 is the number
Yeah.
after which we used to say that repetition sometimes used to come, but again it depends on the nature of the study.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very well.
Again it depends on the nature of the study, ma'am. If it is very
Yeah.
common, can easily get the I mean entities.
50,
If
50
it is
number.
rare, it will be tough to get the numbers getting.
Yeah.
But it's always suggested in pilot also, approximately 30 will be the respectful number on which you can rely and process your study. Okay, ma'am?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
we'll do. We have that in our mind. We will
And
keep minimum 30, and the maximum number we can get up to the stipulated period, we will try to do.
yeah, and the only thing, ma'am, we have not to compromise with the quality of the work.
Of
The
course.
Yeah,
most important
right.
thing for all researcher is, because of time shortage, we should not compromise with the quality of the work.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so if you will conduct a proper pilot,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
can request to the
To
funding
continue the
agency or
project.
to the governing body or administrative body to extend the time so that you can
Okay.
come out with quality research results. Getting
Yeah.
my point, ma'am?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Good suggestion.
Manushi,
Yes,
very
ma'am. Yes.
nice, very interactive. The
Thank you, sir.
participants are taking so much of interest.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Amit, please
Doctor,
thank the
yeah,
speaker.
sir, Dr. Anju sent me
Or
request
some
to
more
kindly
questions, is
unmute
it?
me. Dr. Anju, I have already unmuted you.
Yes, yes. Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
Ma'am, my question is, many a times when we go for any kind of Ayurveda studies,
Yeah.
we do not get validated questionnaires, ma'am.
Oh, fine.
So, ma'am, what we should do for validating a questionnaire? I mean, before doing a study, is it mandatory to go for a questionnaire which is validated, or we ourselves can do something to validate that? It's a
Yeah,
process of
there
validation, a
is
cumbersome process.
yeah, Dr. Anju, there are very set process to validate the questionnaire, but your questionnaire should be validated always. If you have the validated scale or validated questionnaire, that too region specific validation, region
Okay, ma'am.
specific, in which region you are going to implement or conduct that study. If you if you will have, then you can use it directly by mentioning the crom batch alpha value. If you don't have, you have to go through the validation process first. You have to validate it. There is defined steps to validate the questionnaire, and then only you can use that scale in your study.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am, for making session more interactive with
Thank you.
all queries. And now, without taking too much time, I would like to introduce today's chairperson, our respected Dr. Padam Singh sir. He's held many important positions in the government of India. Sir has been a member of National Statistical Commission (GOI) during 2006 to 9. Sir has served as additional Director General
I think they must
1997.
have, they have already must have attended my previous lecture. They must be knowing.
But two members are new, so I just repeated for them. Some of them are not presented on that day.
Okay.
There is a list of, I have no words to explain, sir, in words, but try to explain. Sir has worked as a joint advisor in Planning Commission during 1979 to 87 and as a professor of statics at Tusa Institute. Sir has also been awarded by the Sankhya Bhushan Award and is a fellow of Society of Medical Statics. Sir recently get Dr. Pandit Ramkrishna Pandey Lifetime Achievement Award from our Institute of Applied Statistics and Dr. P.V. Subhatme Lifetime Achievement Award with 5 lakhs cash prize from the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, Government of India. Now I would like to again, sir, to please share your views, experience and kindly conclude today's session. Please, sir.
No. I think I was already interacting in between.
Yes.
Manushi madam has, made things so simple. Let me tell you, it was such a interesting presentation,
Thank you.
it was an interactive presentation. That is the beauty of that presentation, and she has tried to simplify the things for the participants. And we hope in the next 2 lectures also, I think it will be equally interesting and equally simple and interactive.
Sure,
So
sir. I
thank
will
you,
try my
Dr.
best.
Manushi.
Yes, sir.
And we hope to that I'll be asked to share your other 2 sessions as well.
Sure,
Maybe
sir.
I don't know. This is up to the organizers.
Sure, sir.
Okay, I enjoyed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks for blessing, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Now, what I would like to announce that tomorrow we have our another session of Fundamental of Study designed by Dr. Ratan Srivastava, sir. From the Joint State Training Center of Rajasthan, we convey our sincere thanks to all the participants for their active participation and commitment for today's session. We heartily thank the guest speaker of the session, Dr. Manushi Srivastava, who kept participants engaged by the way of very informative and interactive session. We also thank Dr. Padam Singh sir for chairing today's session and sharing his experience and views about the session with the participants. Now, this is the end of today's session. We again meet tomorrow at 6 p.m. with Dr. Ratan Srivastava sir on Fundamental of Study Design. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Amit.
sir.
Thank you.